Okay, Josh.
What are you looking at me for? Okay, guys, so we wanted to do a podcast with Mike Skinner from Aqueous, and it's a product that we carry as a company, and I guess I should say we wanted to hop on here and answer a lot of questions that guys have about applications, uses, etc. So, Ben, you've done some work in the past with it. Yeah, sure you got more to add.
Do I?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Boy, we did get a lot of back feed. Yeah, we did a lot of testing. Well, not a lot of testing, but some testing in last year. Met Skinner down at Commodity Classics. So it's been about a year ago. Yep. And talked about what he had. It was with some of our other affiliates we've been worked with in the past. So, yeah, seen what he had to offer. Looked at the science behind it. Things looks pretty exciting. And brought it to some of our fields and tested it out. Kept talking through the year and decided that I'm going to drop that one real quick. That helps quite a bit. Yeah, run it through the year and seen things and talked and continued to talk and decided to bring it on.
Hey, we're happy. We're happy that you did, and we've been 5 years getting field results and third party and testing results, and we've seen some really positive results in both our soil products and our foliar products, and it's something different that I think a lot of your farmers will really appreciate because of the results and the way it works.
Yeah. So guys ask us a lot about what it is. Mike, hydronium technology, you want to just like in a nutshell, like farmer level, how would you explain it?
Well, I'm glad you said farmer level, because I'm fortunate I have a soil agronomist and field agronomist and a lot of guys, and we can get really technical here. I think for the people that might be listening to this, simplifying it is the best way to go. And our company, it's been 10 years, and we have 36 patents around the technology that not are only in agriculture but in lots of other fields, from medical to personal care to sanitation, and it all came based on a discovery about 12 years ago of a product that's a unique kind of acid. Acids are really important in all sorts of industries, but in the agricultural industry, you've seen some use of a few acids, but because they're so hazardous and challenging to use, and the results are short term, they're not used quite as much as where we think our growthful products are. So our brand names are growthful, and we have three products that we'll talk about today probably, that are meant for the soil, foliar, and anywhere in between. We have some post-harvest stuff, but the chemistry is really everyone knows what H2O, water, is, and they might know about what hydronium is, and hydronium is just happens in every 480 million drops coming from rain, where an extra hydrogen molecule attaches to a water molecule, and it has the unbalanced charge, and it just lasts for a pegasecond and goes away. And what our chemistry was able to do, and we've patented, is that we have a product that's pretty darn close to H21O10. And so it's a stabilized hydronium, and we have lots of hydrogen molecules that we put into the ground that have an impact on a variety of things I think we'll talk about today. But it's a low pH product. It's an acidifying product. And because of what it does to the soil and what it does on leaves and foliage, we've just seen tremendous results in yields, and in some ways saving on some costs, because we provide a way to get some of those micro and macronutrients out of the soil and use them more efficiently in the plant. So, that's the short speech on it. I can go deeper if you'd like.
What talk a little bit about the relationship of hydrogen in the ground. What is the importance of hydrogen in soil? Yeah, I'd say that's the number one thing guys ask. And it's like, okay, I'm unfamiliar with the relationship of hydrogen. How's it work?
Well, I think if you go back to the beginning of time, the Big Bang Theory, hydrogen bombs, everything, hydrogen plays an important role. And I swear if our product was a long time ago, it would be HNPK, because hydrogen, is in water, and when it hits carbon in the soil, it really creates carbonic acids, and those are what break up a variety of minerals that are needed by the plant. And what we do is we sort of replicate what the plant does. When a plant uses a lot of its energy that it gets through photosynthesis to go out there and use that energy, and it releases different types of acids through its roots to go out and call for the minerals that it needs to grow. And what we do is through all that hydrogen, we attract carbon and provide that carbonic acid outside of the plant's working effort. So we save the plant energy in trying to produce that carbonic acid that goes and creates the ability to bring in minerals that it tries to do, so the plant can use its energy for growing it and not really going out and getting anything. So hydrogen is one of the three essentials products that anything needs for growth, and we just put billions in with every application that we put on there.
So Josh, to kind of make this understanding hydrogen, so plants, it's a sugar factory. Okay. It makes glucose and things like that. So carbon is a limiting factor, and hydrogen, and I'm trying to think of the other one off the top of my head at the moment. But anyway, so you got glucose molecule. So when they make it C6H12O6. Yep. And so hydrogen is necessary to do that. It gets it from the water molecule, breaking it off the oxygen, and that's how you get oxygen release, capturing CO2 for carbon. So
thanks.
And if you get into that chemistry, it can blow your brain. But very simply, we all know that there's lots of minerals that are tied up in soil, and what we do is through that carbonic acid. That's what plants do to get fed, and we're replicating that outside the plant. And we're phosphorus, and you can go through iron, magnesium, manganese, and others. We release those from their chemical bonds to allow the plants to take them up in a way that makes them grow faster.
Okay. I believe you.
So
the results show it. So, you can believe me, but that's why, hey, 4 years of testing, we're seeing it all over the place. That's, I think, why we're growing.
Well, I think it's just important to start at a point, the elementary level, and work our way up, because I certainly, when Ben started talking to me about hydrogen, I go, what? How does hydrogen affect plants? And it opens up this whole conversation about the relationship of hydrogen and soil and plants.
One thing I've mentioned in the past is, particularly when it comes to soil tests, when you get into high acidics, typically your main determining factor is hydrogen.
Okay. So
hydrogen is a key player within pH, which affects then the amount of nutrition that is available or not available.
We see it pretty often where a guy will have high or low pH and think it's a calcium issue. And his base saturation calcium might be 70%.
Yeah. And until, it's weird, and Mike, I'm sure you could agree or whatever you want to do with it, but up until the last 2 or 3 years, hydrogen has just been something when you talk to a farmer, like, what are you talking about? Because all they're
still
beat
very
is,
much the
calcium is low, lack of calcium is low pH.
Right.
I mean, that's what you believed, and a lot of guys believed until that, recently. Yours is
So
absolutely
you
not
told
low
me
calcium.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hydrogen is one that's fairly new to the farm gate side, at least on understanding. So it's when we do talk about this here, it's hard for guys to understand, like, why should I care? It's like trying to explain why should you care about carbon,
Yeah.
even though extradates are carbohydrate and it's a carbon.
I agree, and in ours in particular, that when acids are lower pH products, and I think that the farmers do understand that certain minerals release at certain pH values, somewhere between 4.8 and 5.8, is sort of a pretty good range, and trying to get that reaction at the right time so that the plant gets what is needed is the goal. And until our product, and there's the humics out there, but there isn't been a way to deliver a high amount of hydrogen to help in that pH buffering, and that's where it really comes in. We're a buffer, whether you have low pH soil or more alkaline soil. That the goal is to try to find that range where those different minerals are released, and I think farmers understand that, and I think that's where our product plays a really important role.
So when we first started talking, Josh, we started talking about hydrogen a little bit, but in pH.
Yeah.
And I told you that when you got into high pH ranges, anhydrous worked. And because you were introducing so much hydrogen into the system. And so it's something prior to I ever met Mike, and I was like, well, that might be a good option, but I don't know how else to introduce it besides anhydrous. So that's why when I first started talking to him and seeing this large hydrogen complex, it just like, okay, well, maybe we can't actually go to 32 in high pHs, especially when you got high magnesium.
Okay. Okay. So, just looking through, it's got a list of questions and whatnot. Should I use this product if I have a pH of 6? Because we talk about raising and lowering hydrogen levels in the soil. Would hydrogen product, like pre or post, affect pH of soil positive way, negative way? How is it going to affect the pH of soil, or is it?
Well, it's going to have a temporary effect, breaking up those bonds, where I think if you look at a lot of data from the past, that they're talking to 5.8 to 6.2, where you really release different organic matter, and studies that are more recent believe that it's low as 4.8 to there. So it's a buffer solution. The whole goal is you have these positive protons that are going after and trying to break the ligand bonds that are tied. The reason why iron and manganese and magnesium are all tied up is because it's a chemical bond. So somewhere in that range, different pieces of that organic matter become available. They become smaller for the plant's roots to be able to bring them in. So the answer to your question is it's really good whether you have low or high. So at a 6 pH, we temporarily impact that and might break up some of those manganese molecules to be able to be consumed. We had a farm up here that was doing a lot of corn, and get to the middle of summer and they started yelling because they weren't getting it. He always had to spray it, and when he started using our stuff, he doesn't have to do it anymore. And so it just breaks up that bond.
Okay. Talk a little bit, Mike, about, I'd say, the top two, maybe 3 products, the pre, the post, just a little bit about each one. Why the pre, why the post?
Okay. So the Growthful, we have, all of them are soil amendments, and the Growthful pre-emerge and max are meant to be pre-emerge products. That's sort of why they're named that way. And the what those are where we get in furrow or 2x2, or you can broadcast or band. And the years that we've spent is trying to get the right amount at the right time in the right place. And with our pre-emerge, that's our general use products for all of the things I just mentioned. And, you know, uh, depending, we have protocols, but typically, like in furrow is a pint or a quart. And, on the pre-treatments, it's a gallon or two. And it really helps that if you can, in all our controls studies, that if you're putting our product on, the controls never catch the alternative where we have our growthful products on, because we help the plant. Plant it's all about energy. We have energy, and the plants with this carbonic acid, the energy, it saves the energy and allows those roots to grow better. And a low pH, we make no kill claims, but the plant is healthier right there. Healthy soil, healthy plant. So that's sort of the growthful pre-emerge. And I'd say the same story for Max. It does the same thing, but it's a very highly concentrated product. And when you're running into clay soils or soils that are compacted, our product there helps to break them bonds up even quicker. So we had potato farmers out in Arizona that had some really challenges. They couldn't even get their planters through at 1.5 miles an hour, and they treat it with Growthful Max, and 2 weeks later they were cruising along 3, 4, 5 miles an hour, being able to do it. So it breaks up those bonds. When you talk about all these bonds, that's sort of why clay stays together. And if you loosen that up, that allows the roots to grow deeper and wider. And at the same time, when you're putting on fertility products, they're not running off. They're going deeper in the soil where they can be consumed. So that's where Max plays a role. And then the other product that, is getting really, really heavily used now is our post-emerge. And let me say that, like most of the products you see that are foliar are, if it's a fungicide or insecticide or something like that, they're organic, and ours is an inorganic adjuvant. So we play differently, and when you use that, we certainly improve the benefits that you have with some of those products, and it works the same way as the roots that like the roots, the stomates, and the leaf can take in whatever you're putting them on. If you're adding more fertility products, that it allows them to be consumed in a much more effective way. So, it's really, the three general areas. And, everyone, when I get it deeper into questions, we've tested this on lots of agricultural, we probably have 20 or so different varieties or species in agriculture, but we also have a tree, shrubs, and ornamentals and grass. So when we're going in the soil, because of that ability to break that up, we help everything go. So it's multi-crop and can be spread across, whatever you're growing.
Sure. One of the other questions on higher pH soils, would this product be better in a band or a broadcast application, pH 7.5 or higher?
We have people doing both. And, if you can broadcast, that's usually my preference. But in banded operations, so if we're doing, like we do some sugar cane and they have wider rows, and we want to get it as close to the cane and development and roots, so we like banded in that environment. But broadcast is probably, the top choice there.
Gotcha. Ben, on your soils, in your situation, what's your preference? I guess not necessarily what's your preference. I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask this question.
As far as your last question goes?
Yeah. Yeah. from the farmer side? That you've looked at it from the science side, the application side, the farmer side,
Practicality.
because obviously this perked your interest. You're like, hey, I've been looking for
Right.
a hydrogen. When this piqued your interest, you're like, I think I could apply this in this situation and gain benefit.
So what we found, Johnny.
Yep.
That was one that I talked a lot about, and then dealing with the bicarbonate guys down south. So, I think the biggest thing that really rung out initially is there's this thing called a sulfur burner. And you take elemental sulfur, you put it in this deal, you burn it, makes sulfuric gas, and then it condensates in, and then you're acidifying your irrigation water to break bicarbonate. So bicarbonate levels in irrigation, they say the area which you need to start mitigating is around 200. And we're far higher in spots than that. And so that was the original thing that piqued my interest due to that. You good over there?
I cannot read lips. Happy?
Okay. The other thing when it come to this was infro, or strategic placing for cost-effective reasons.
Okay.
So this lead into my next question for Mike. When I started talking to Michael about it, and we started talking about carbonics, that's when I really started, okay, this is something I probably want to strategically place in order to get a bigger bang. Just about like anything. I mean, Humix, we say that as well. Any of our carbon products are somewhat similar thought process or whatever. So, Mike, I guess question I would have for you on that is, or I guess something to elaborate on, carbonic acid. So, in a nutshell, acid rain. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, acid rain is something that we dreaded there a ways back, but it really is, the life cycle. I mentioned our other companies, and part of us breathing is we're breathing, we're creating carbonic acid ourselves. That's how we live. That's how life is about. And if you spend a few minutes, and I'm happy to share lots of presentations that are really deep that could explain this to you guys, but in the simplest of form, that it is that we know that there's tied up 70% phosphorus and lots of micronutrients, and the plant, we're just replicating what the plant does, and we're doing it outside so it doesn't have to use energy. And that's that whole if you go into free protons and how they react, it gets a little deep on the science side, but it really, we're duplicating what the plant does, and that really saves the plant energy. And we've also found, like, we did some pretty significant studies, and we're doing more this year, that if you're we know a lot of these minerals are in the soil, and our goal is to improve the soil. That we found down in a lot of our testing with a 15% cut in some fertilizers, that we got the same yield results or better. And so our goal, if you look at sustainability and regenerative kind of thought process that you hear all over the place, we add to that just by doing what God does and the soil does right outside the plant. So it's just an assistant in improving the way the whole cycle works. And carbonic acid is, we're just replicating it outside the plant.
How can this product fit with fertigation and pivots? Is another question we had.
Yeah, on that, we with pivots, if you put too much water in and you're going full pivot in chemigation, you might use too much product, and so we prefer the fertigation side, where we're putting on a little less water. Actually, Ben and I that was our first conversation. He was explaining some different things on pivot to me, and you know, we work and we've had some success in chemization, but if I had to choose, I think fertigation, less water, and also because it's an inorganic adjuvant, you know, we help with resistance on, some of the things that, might be considered uh, antimicrobial challenges.
So this is the talk me and Johnny were talking about when it comes to fertigation is actually injecting nitrogen and using this to treat the nitrogen side, not treating the water. And I think that there's potential to, work on the bicarbonate. But if you're on older technology on top of the pipe or way, way up with your drops, I think you're spinning in the wind still. This is more like LIPA type technology where you're down lower to the ground, precise entry point applications. And that was the original talks me and Mike were talking about, is treating entry points.
Okay.
So like this table's got these lines, you would essentially treat this strip where the nozzle comes through every time.
Okay.
So for my irrigation guys that are watching and curious, that's what we were talking about.
Got it.
Yeah, and that was, I think Ben provided some great insight for us there, because, we know we're successful, the tighter we can get it to where the plants are, it's just better, and less water, I mean, it took us years to figure out the right protocols, and that's why, we have now today what we can pretty much help our farmers through on every type of application.
Sure. Another question is, how precise does the measurements need to be when using this product? AKA, if I go a little over or a little under, is this going to be an issue, or will I still have benefit?
No, you'll have benefit. We've tried to hone it in, but, I mean, like I said, back to, the
You've got a pretty wide range of application ranges. I mean, quart to,
yeah.
Gallon in some cases.
Yep, yep, and that's what, over the last 3 years, and we have a grow house, and we have a whole chemistry lab, and we've done all these different tests to make sure we didn't cause any phyto problems or anything. But everything we have, we've tested, and they have a pretty wide range. We don't, ours is a do no harm, and one of the things that I think everyone's interested in is how does it mix with this and how does it mix with that. We haven't found anything we don't mix with. It's a water-based chemistry, so we haven't found anything. And, we just suggest that when they're doing the mixes, always do a jar test, but put our products in right after you put the water, and then add in, whatever you want to do after that.
Would it fit better on a post-application herbicide or post-application fungicide application?
It's about a 50-50 call. It works well with both. And, if, I like with the fungicide because, of our resistance piece that I think it has some advantage, but it could go on either.
Sure. If you could only put it on once, when would it be?
Well, then I get a little more into crop specific, but
Corn.
Corn, I like the soil applications, unless you're fighting tar spot or something, and then I'd have to say do it free and put it in a spray or two as you're if you do foliar spraying right now.
Interesting. How does it affect a fungicide? I said you mentioned tar spot there. We got a lot of customers fighting tar spot. How does GrowFull help in a fungicide application against a disease?
We're, like I said, we make no kill claims, but we're an inorganic adjuvant, which is a lower pH, and as such, a lower pH just tends to help it. We should be getting some data back pretty soon from we did some at Michigan State. We did some test on that, and I got some preliminaries, but we just help prove it because it's a different mode of action out there. And, when you're talking about inorganic versus organic chemistry, that plants tend to figure out how to work their way around organics. That's why people are changing their different fungicides all the time. But as an inorganic chemistry, they can't adapt, they can't change. So, we really help on that resistance piece. So we put another mode in there, and it's really inexpensive per acre too. As you guys know, we're not charging, near as much as what you'd see on a lot of those fungicides and herbicide applications.
That was. Got any more questions?
I've got the list here, and I'm scrolling through some of these questions. Mike has actually answered. One question was, what micros are we releasing with this product? He already talked about manganese, things of that nature when you're loosening that chemical bond in soil. If you have anything you'd like to add, Ben, right now would be a great time to add it while I look for the next question.
So you can scan through your notes? Yeah. One thing that and it may be too deep for this.
Never.
Don't say never.
Okay. Maybe not.
Growful's pH is right around 0, correct?
No, when we manufacture it, but not what's going out to, when we're sending that out. That took the years to figure out what we wanted to do and how we dilute it, and that's what's on the label. So, it's somewhere, when it gets to the field, it's somewhere between a little above 1 to 4, I'd say, 4 pH. So,
okay. So it's still on the lower side, pretty low.
Yeah.
But then you dilute it, the diluting instructions, and that brings it up. You put a few drops in a glass of water, and you'll see how much it drops the pH.
Interesting. Can guys use this? Say they've got water pH of 8, which I know a lot of guys do. I've got some as well. Nutrient intake in plants is better and a more optimal pH in the 6s. Can this be used to lower pH of spray water?
So this was actually something I wanted to trial. So we got guys putting in ROs.
Reverse osmosis?
Right. Reverse osmosis. Sure. And I was wondering if we could treat it with Growful versus spending all the money on an RO system. Because we know that we need at least somewhat acidic.
Yeah.
And the other minerals, bicarbonates, and everything that may be coming in the water are probably playing into it some, but how much would it break up with hydronium in there, or the carbonic?
So it'd be breaking up those hard molecules in water and lowering pH?
That's a good question for Mike. You got any weigh in on that?
And if you don't know, that's totally okay, because that is...
No, I can get deep into it, man. This is... So we have a lot more going on, and we're only talking about the things we know, but... I'll share that, like what Ben talked about on sulfuric acid pits, and we're working with some pretty good horticulturists in greenhouses, and all of them use sulfuric to break up the bicarbonates in water, and they want to get the sulfuric out. And we are doing some pretty significant testing on getting the right ranges on there. I know we break it up, but I'm going to throw this out there. People like this is a tough one here, and I might get too deep, but they're treating the water there, and it's the problem is the tie up in the carbonates in the soil, but they're treating the water to treat the bicarbonates and carbonate buildup in the soil. And our theory and what we believe is that if we're applying our product right to the soil, that we could sort of bypass sort of some of that water treatment. And that's what we're pursuing right now. In water, it does, you'd have to test on the RO systems, and that's how I stumbled on this. I owned a 28,000 square foot greenhouse, and it was all hydroponic. And I was using it to treat the water, and I saw the yield responses. But we definitely have an impact on that. But once again, the problem, just like the pivots, if you're punching, tons of water through it, the cost, I'm all about ROI, and the ROI might be too much if you're applying large amounts of water as part of that. So that's where fertigation, makes more sense than, camigation.
Right. Well, I'd say a lot of this would be guys just with a sprayer, a ground rig sprayer or pull type.
Yeah, I mean, we see that somewhat. I mean, RO is just stripping. You're going to strip everything out of it.
You're stripping all the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can you essentially neutralize it when you're applying 10 gallons an acre, which you would have time to agitate and let the reaction take place? Because we're finding out even on the carbon side that time of activation is probably the best way to put it. There's essentially a window there. Like, don't blend it and go instantly. You need to essentially let it sit for 5-10 minutes or whatever.
Sure.
So we found that a lot in carbon being compatible with acidic products, is that window of activation getting through. So that's my thought with this is, can you actually break it and let that happen?
My answer is yes. And I think, on the carbonic acid side, sort of, it all ties back to that. So I would say yes. And especially if you're doing the boom, kind of stuff, I just caution that, if you dilute it too much, then you're not going to get the efficacy that you need.
Yeah.
I'm going to test it.
We're going to test it. It's on the list.
Well, it's on the list of stuff. But yes, that's one of the things is, lowering pH. Interesting. Good thought. Okay, let's see. Actually, I already asked that question. Ben, if you have any other questions, it'd be a great time to wait.
I'm your fallback, and
I am. I realize I already asked that question. I think I got through most of the ones that our guys sent back.
And they're all good questions. And, I mean, going back to the beginning, that, it is new chemistry, and it works well with those others. And, a lot of our protocols are meant to, we don't want to change and cause more labor for the farmers, and, working it into their existing programs, in a variety of ways. And, we have protocols and best management practices and blah, blah, blah. And, huge amount of data that we can, sort if we're, talking about different crops. I know you guys are corn and beans and maybe some beets.
Corn, beans, wheat, but we got a lot of other crops coming in too. I'd say top corn and beans, then wheat, and then I don't know, we keep adding new crops every day. Blueberries is the new one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Citrus.
Norm Tanis is a blueberry farmer, and we've been on blueberries, and we have one of the biggest blueberry growers in Michigan using our product. So, but on all the grasses, the alfalfas and hay, I mean, I could talk about some of our other products that, like when you're looking at moisture and hay, and the challenges of bales and them, that we've got some pretty good results, and we're doing more studies around that.
We do have some hay, guys. Go ahead and dive into the hay portion side just a little bit, Mike. I think that's because we do have a lot of cattle guys.
Well, so let me just start on anything that's sort of like a grass crop, even sugarcane, anything that's grass. That what all the impacts I talked about on the soil are the same benefits you see on alfalfa or hay or anything that you're growing in that area. And how they're applying it today on those crops, where, like, if they're cutting alfalfa 3 times, we want to get 4 out of them. And after each cut, if it goes on our post emerge afterwards, that we increase the growth of that second growing. And I got a 190,000 acre place down in Florida that had some amazing results on new cane, and Now they're doing it on, second and third cuts. And we're, we just see tremendous results. And then um, before you bale, because we're a low pH product, if they have a little sprayer at the end and when they're baling with a very light coating, we found that we sort of eliminate on the inside of those bales any type of activity. We help keep it, a cleaner mix, and you open them up and you don't have any, problems with that. So that's something where we're really, this year we're going to do a whole lot more on everything that has to do with grass.
We hear a lot of guys, guys spray acid on alfalfa all the time. I do hear as a preserve. Is that the right? I never did spray acid on alfalfa before, but I know it's a huge thing. I see tanks on balers all the time. So is that same concept? It's an acidic product to help as a preservative? Am I on the right track here?
100%. So we have another product we're using called Fresh Full and Fresh Tech, which after post-harvest that comes on and it's a whole different, I don't want to dig into this, but yes, that we, once a plant gets broken from its roots or something, it doesn't have the ability to create its own defense systems. And we help in doing that. And, propionic acid is what you're referring to. And ours is much safer and I think, cost effective. So you're spot on, Josh.
I feel great about myself now.
Hey, that's the goal, man. We all strive for that every day.
There you go. Pat myself on the back. Ben, how do you plan on implementing this into your operation?
So I'm going to treat your 32% with it. That's my main goal up front.
Through the pivot?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Some of them will be streamered. So I got such high mag. I get bigger bang out of streamering it than I ever do just general irrigation broadcast, if it's possible. So corn, not so much, because I'm narrow row spacing. I can't run down the row. So that's one. The other is adding it into the in-furrows. And then if I come back and do a fungicide, which I don't, I'm reactive when it comes to that, not proactive.
Okay.
Which sounds terrible, but I'm not going to spray just because I do. I'm going to see something, then I'm going to treat.
Yeah. My soils pretty well. Where would a carbonic acid benefit me? I've got a sprayer, I've got a planter with in-furrow, I've got strip till. Where would you see the best bang for my buck with carbonic acid?
So yours in particular, I do think in-furrow or fungicide. You have high mags in certain areas. Certain areas are really, really well off. So yeah, that's probably going to stay.
Do you think it would benefit me streaming it on wheat? I'm running 30 or 28 humic sulfur. Would this help in regards to that?
That's a good question. Mike.
Thiosulfate.
How would you compare it, or how would you say compatibility or modes would go with sulfur?
It works very well in that. And I like the 28 better than 32. If we do 32, we usually put a little bit of water in there, just a little extra. With all the humics going on, that same carbonic, and I got to send you guys some good technical stuff, and you guys can joke around, and we can get Michael on the phone if you need to, because the whole deep dive into the abyss can come from that. But putting it on with your fungicides and I lost my train of thought there, but it was
Sulfur.
Yeah, so for I think that I think that you'll see advantages there. And if you're fungicide, like on what Ben said about fungicides, I agree with them totally. It depends on where you're at in the country, and if it's not a regular worry, then why spend the money? But when you're starting to get in, like when I talked to Dan Story and had what he's doing with sugar beets and the challenges there, it's an essential. I mean, it really makes a huge difference.
Talk about sugar beets for just a little bit, because I know we do have customers in that space. How does carbonics benefit sugar beet growth?
Well, once again, with sugar beets, we work with Michigan Sugar, and we've done 3 years of studies with them and 3 years with Michigan State on to prove where we're at. And we're seeing about 800 pounds of raw sugar per acre on all our tests. And I mean, our business, we're really, the word's getting around here in Michigan and up in North Dakota and stuff that, we really can improve it. And the whole carbonic acid things works, whether it's grass or, horticulture, because, you know, in the soil, you got to just think, and I mean, I love to show you some pictures, and I can't, if just what's happening, everything's tied up, or a lot of it's tied up, and a lot of the chemistry out there just doesn't do what we do because of all that hydrogen. Hydrogen's a mirror, like I said, the Big Bang theory, it really goes, and it has to do with positive and negative charges, and it's a great podcast for, if you guys want to do a deep dive, it's really interesting, and it's about human life and plant life and animal life. But on sugar beets, we're just, we've tested with just our foliar program, and we've tested with our soil program. But when we put the two together, we see that big bang, because we're starting those roots going better. Anything that's in the ground, whether it's potatoes, roots, carrots, we've seen just tremendous growth on those kind of vegetables. And we we add that resistance as part of a foliar program.
So basically, what I'm coming away with from a student aspect: loosening tight soil, making nutrients more available to the plant. Would you say that's a pretty good summary? If you want to, I mean, I'm talking simple. Meet Farmer Joe on the sidewalk. Meet Farmer Josh on the sidewalk.
Walk away.
One guy says in one sentence, what does carbonics, growthful products do? Would you say that loosening soil and improving nutrient intake in plants be the answer? Would you tweak it?
It's great for the pre and max. I'd say that's the answer. On the post, it's a similar activity on the leaf function, and it's that resistance. So when it comes to stress, that's where we're fighting it. And we've had these late season applications, like on beans. We had when you think you shouldn't put it on anymore. We had a farmer, 200 acres, do 100 side by side, and had third party tested, and he had a little over 9 bushel more with a late September feed. So it's filling those pods. He had 9 bushel improvement. So like if we encourage farmers to put on that extra application, because their return on investment is good.
So your pre and your max, that's soil, post, targeting plants.
You got it. That's the elevator speech. That's the elevator. There you go.
Cool. Well, we are out of time. Aaron's giving me the watch tap over here. So, yeah, Ben, you want to add anything in before we close it up?
Yeah, one thing in particular. So, we're talking about all these different products, or not products, but we're talking all these different crops and all these different applications and all these different rates. And I know that guys can sit there and get overwhelmed by, like, okay, the typical, just give me a freaking answer.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really take from that is the fact that it is got a level of practicality. You can use it. So we talk all the time. You can have the best thing in the world, but if it is so finicky, that the applications or where you use it or what you use it on is just such a narrow window, it doesn't work. You miss the window, you're done.
Yeah.
And this thing brings a practicality that's great. In fact, our whole team, when evaluating this, that was the top thing, is the practicality, ease of use. It's not something that's going to be a wreck if you don't do it just right.
Got it.
Couldn't agree more. It's simple to use, work well, it's safe on equipment, and we always see an ROI. We have a 95% reorder rate, so I think that says something.
Cool.
Yep.
Very good. All right. Well, Mike, appreciate it. Appreciate your time hopping on here and doing a podcast with us to talk about Aqueous and benefits for farmers. And that's something that we at Singular found value in and brought it to our distributor network. So I'm excited to put it in fields this summer and, yeah, see some good results.
Hey, you guys are great to work with, and I think there's going to be a lot of good things going on, and it's just once people try it, we're going from fives to totes, and I think you'll see the same thing. So I appreciate you getting the word out, and anything we can do to support you with our agronomy staff or whatever, just let us know.
Cool. And if someone wants to learn more about Growthful products and science behind it, good avenue would be where would people go?
Well,
other than us, I know I shouldn't say other than us, but if someone just wants to hop on and do a quick Google search and do some more reading.
Yeah. Well, we're fighting a lot of big companies out there, and we're ready to launch a new website in the next 30 days, hopefully. But we have a whole educational series for your dealers. We have a Dropbox, and we've done 5 educational series that go through at great length acids, the details, everything that we've talked about in overly technical sense. And they're about a half hour each, and we have that, and we have a whole Dropbox full of information we'd love to share with whoever wants. But it's not all out there on the web because we're protecting our trade a little bit.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the web. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch you later.
Do good things. Thanks, guys.